Hi, I'm Jim. I'm a narcissist. I have narcissistic personality disorder. Making these videos just really for anybody that has any interest in gaining information. You know, if you think you have this disorder and you think I have things to offer that could be helpful, maybe you think you know somebody that might have this disorder and you kind of want to peek behind the curtain what it must be like to be them. You know, maybe you're pursuing a degree and feel like this would be helpful. Whatever the case may be. I mean, if the videos are helpful in any way, I feel like I'm obligated to do that, to help if I can in any way, shape, or form. So, what I wanted to talk about today is just how fixated our minds can get, and I also wanted to talk about because I'm having a realization today, and I've mentioned before. And it's okay if you don't watch the videos. What I don't do is I try not to feed my disorder. So that means it wants me to glory hound. It wants me to pander. You know what I mean? It wants me to beg you to hit the subscribe button and like buttons and all those things. And I try not to do that. Right? That's feeding my disorder. So I so I do my best. Sorry, laptop behind you. I do my best not to do those things. Right? But of course, I have made other videos and, things, get brought up there and, where I feel like I'm at in my journey, not necessarily where I felt at different times of those videos. I was feeling pretty darn good where I was at, I'll be honest. Feeling pretty rock star. I think I got kicked back a couple of pegs, right? I don't want to say I had a relapse, but, I think there was some eye-opening stuff, so I'll share that later, right? But I think the two are going to kind of tie into each other. So first, just how fixated we can get, right? So I always talk about, like me, I've always felt like my disorder sits on my shoulder and screams in my ear, right? So it was my birthday, and I received a happy birthday text. And the text said, "Happy birthday," with like an exclamation point. And immediately my mind started attacking the text, right? Well, why isn't there a present? And why isn't there the little hat emoji? And why isn't there balloons? And why isn't there all of this other stuff? And maybe lips with a kiss or a hug and, and that's enough, right? To realize, I got a disorder. Like, that's not normal, right? But nope. That didn't stop there. So the B in birthday wasn't capitalized. And man, that ate at me. I'm gonna be honest. Demon screaming. That's exactly what. They don't like you. They don't love you. They don't care about you. They think you're filth. Like, that's what the demon screaming. That's why you get the lowercase b, right? And it's trying to convince me of stuff like, hey, man, friggin' Siri knows to capitalize that B. This person went in and had to change that capital B to be a lower B, and they were doing it deliberately to fuck with you, right? This is all kind of crazy stuff my disorder tells me. And I gotta be honest, I kind of felt like I had gotten to a place where I wasn't really getting a whole lot of that from this disorder. What I try to do is, when I control it, like, I feel like I'm taking that disorder, I'm crumbling that thing up. Like, it's always going to be a part of me. I can't throw it away. I can't get rid of it, right? It has to be a part of me somehow, some way. But if it's on my shoulder, it's doing exactly what it wants, right? It's controlling me. It's telling me what to do, where to go, and it's right in my ear screaming. But if I can get a hold of that thing and pick that thing up and just crumble it, put it underneath my foot, it's still with me, but I don't hear that thing. Right? I control that thing. I step on that thing like bubblegum on the bottom of my shoe, right? And that's where I want that disorder. But this weekend, that disorder was back on my shoulder, and it was screaming it, right? It was letting me have it, and it was tough, right? So it was reminding me of where I was when I first started acknowledging I had this disorder. Here's the thing. When I didn't know I had this disorder, I thought that, hey, what did they tell you growing up? Everybody's the same. You're just like everybody else, right? So I thought, like, hey, this is the kind of stuff that everybody does. This is just commonplace, right? These crazy thoughts are just how people live life. I didn't know I had a disorder, right? I didn't know that this was abnormal thinking. I didn't know I had abnormal behaviors. I thought everything I did was normal. I didn't realize 1.2% of the population is diagnosed, and of that would only be a small percentage that has the same NPD that I do, which means we would be similar in any facet. I had no idea. I thought, man, forget, like, so let's just say at that point, like, I don't know, maybe like 0.2, 0.3% of the population. I thought I was up at like 99. Like, yeah, 99%, this is what crazy stuff go through people's brains. That's what happens, right? No. But when I acknowledged I had this disorder, I owned it, right? Made the conscious decision that I wanted my future to be better than my past, that I wanted to make changes. I got my therapist. I put my wellness plan together. You know, I didn't just get a therapist, but I work with him. He and I talk about what the plan is moving forward, how we're going to get me to where I need to be, how we work together as a team, right? Then I started noticing this little motherfucker. I know, wait, those symptoms I was reading about, I hear them now. I hear him screaming. Oh, he's been screaming my whole life. I just didn't notice, right? So then I started incorporating those techniques we talked about. Hey, automatic negative responses. Be careful, right? Don't just jump the gun. Let's start thinking, you know? So let's use it in that scenario, in that situation, okay? And here's the thing. Has your disorder ever lied to you about something like this before? The answer is always yes for me. Yes. I'm old. Look at all these gray hairs. I wasn't born yesterday. I've had this disorder for over 40 years, right? It has lied to me about everything it's possible to lie. I mean, at this point, it's looped. I mean, it's lied to me about the same stuff 500, 600, thousands of times over, right? It ain't lying to me about nothing new, right? So has this disorder ever lied to me about something like this in the past? Oh God, yes, right? And then I ask myself other questions. Hey, is there a chance that it was anything else? Let's see. I don't know. Oh my God. Yo, I'll share this because this is funny, man. So I was texting somebody, and you know the saying, like, don't come at my throat? I was using voice to text while I was driving, and, you just go ahead, press the button, you say it, And I was like, hey, don't come at my throat. And it's a very common expression for, like, hey, don't be verbally aggressive, you know what I mean? And it's a joking comment, right? And I swear to God, Siri, don't come in my throat. And I tell you what, yeah. And I sent it, right? I had a good laugh. So, does Siri mess around with me sometimes and make mistakes? Oh God, yes. So could Siri have made a little B instead of a normal big B? Oh God, yes, right? I mean, are there other options? Yes. So, one of the other things I like to do is, hey, let's walk down Fantasyland, whether it be in the past or in the future. Like, let's walk through Fantasyland of what my mind is telling me. So this person says to themselves, it's Jim's birthday. Let me wish Jim a happy birthday. And they type it out. Capital H, capital B, exclamation point. You know what? I fucking hate that little motherfucker. And I'm not going to tell him I hate him. And I think he's a piece of filth. I'm going to take that B, I'm going to make it a lowercase b, and he's going to know that I don't like him and I don't hate him. Like, for what I'm saying to be true, that's kind of what had to happen. That is the most ridiculous, insane thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Right? But when that MPD demon screaming, like, and you're letting it control you, you don't ask it questions, right? That's why we ask these questions, right? Because now I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. That's ridiculous. Okay. with that being said, so that's a peek behind the NPD curtain of insanity, right? I mean, and that's the insanity, I've lived with my whole life, and I'm not a victim, right? I'm just a person with a disorder that's trying to meet and beat the challenges of it, right? That's it. Sometimes I'm successful, sometimes I'm not. This was a fail. The person that sent it, I had some other things that I wanted to talk to them about, and I asked to talk to them. And it was like the following day. And I brought up that B. And the answer was pretty basic, it was pretty simple. It was, no, I didn't even realize. You know what I mean? So, for me, with my narcissistic personality disorder, I like to ask people questions. And I usually ask permission. And I'm like, hey, I have this disorder, right? Please let me ask one question. Like, if we can make the agreement that if I ask one question, you answer honestly, I'll argue with my mind to shut up, right? And let's just take this happy birthday thing. Be like, oh, I noticed that the B wasn't capital. Was that on purpose, right? And they'll be like, no, what are you talking about? That's crazy. And then it's done. But I didn't do that in this situation, right? But I did bring it up the next day, so that's why I'm considering it a fail. But where I think my huge area of opportunity is here. It was different this time than it has been in a long time. And in the moment, I didn't acknowledge and accept and identify that, which is what I'm trying to learn and grow from. And I'm not trying to justify my actions or my inability to have this be a success and to make this a failure. I'm not. What I'm trying to do is identify the triggers that led up to it becoming a failure so I can meet and beat them in the future, and I don't let the same things keep winning over and over again. Because the little mom got me this time, right? And hey, I mean, this wasn't the biggest, most epic fail ever, right? But that's a slippery slope, man. You let that dude win, and you keep letting him win, you done. You're gonna go right back to where you were, right? You gotta get back on top of that dude, right? This is like a wrestling match, right? He starts wiggling that arm a little bit, and you don't relock that arm or whatever, you're on top of him on the mat, what's gonna happen? He eventually gonna get on top of you, and now he's got you pinned. That's how that works, right? So some of the triggers that I'm acknowledging is just how overwhelmed I was with emotion over the weekend. So I had shared I was having a lot of problems, since I pushed so many people away over my life, that I turned 50, which is a huge celebration birthday, that people normally do destinations and big parties. I didn't really have anybody in my life to do that. Because I had shunned and pushed them all away. I treated them all like filth. Of course nobody wants to plan that for you, right? Why do they want to plan that for you when you just treat them like shit? Right? Doesn't matter. I made changes, I just haven't had enough time to rebuild a new life, to rebuild a life where I'm in control of this disorder. It's going to happen. It hasn't happened yet, right? But it's okay that I was hurt, and it's okay that there was a lot of pain and emotion associated with me having that 50th birthday and not having people to do a big, large celebration. It's okay that I felt like that. And I allowed myself to have those feelings and those emotions. But it was very emotional for me. Very emotional. I also made a video on Saturday because just so happened one of my all-time favorite bands was did a tour, and they weren't coming anywhere near where I live now. So I flew me and my son up to where they were playing, which is close to like my parents' house. Stayed with them, saved a couple of bucks, went to both shows, and that little dude rocked out, man. It was awesome. So I don't want glory hound, right? But hey, I got to talk about my homeboy, right? So took him to his first show, right? He's 14. Mellower side of punk. Right, the one band, most considered ska. They got a lot of punk stuff in there. The other band had some really borderline hardcore punk. Right, great shows. And I tell you, this kid, he rocked it. We got rail both nights. I'm not glory hounding. Okay, right. We got rail both nights. Right, the one was outdoors. The heat. right? You know, the intensity of all the people and, you know, the loud music. And man, this kid was jumping and going nuts and going crazy. He was feeling the beat, right? That was awesome. That was awesome. That was awesome. And I tell you, like on the as soon as we flew home, we got in the car, and he's like, "Hey, Dad, let's put on da-da-da-da." You know, one of the bands we saw. I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And he had never heard them before, right? You know, that was awesome. You know, so we had a great weekend. But I wanted to use that opportunity while I was there to confront my survivor's guilt. I went to the spot where the accident was, where my brother and I were walking back from baseball practice. And I mean, there was an outpour of emotion that, I mean, I was expecting emotion, but I mean, it's the most amount of crying, non-stop crying I've done in my adult life. And when you open up these wounds, I mean, they don't close. I mean, when you open this stuff, like I did with that survivor's guilt, going to that spot of that accident, I mean, it doesn't close. And I don't want it to close, right? I got to open it up and I got to get it out, right? Because it was closed in there is why I have the survivor's guilt, why I have this NPD. That's what causes it, the coping mechanism to seal it, right? I'm getting it out. I'm not closing it, right? And when it opens up, I mean, it's, you know, it's intense. So I had that stuff going on. And again, I'm not trying to justify it. I'm not trying to make excuses. But he was on the bottom of my foot, be like, "Ooh, I see what's going on. I'm going to find my spot on the shoulder." And that's what he did. Like a little tick. Started climbing up my leg, right? Until he got a spot on my shoulder. That's why he was louder, right? When I saw that happy birthday. I had those other feelings and emotions about my birthday being there, right? And the person that sent it has a lot more of an intense emotional, you know, attachment, right? Now, you know, and I was kind of hurt that all I got was a happy birthday text, right? So there's all this other stuff, you know, that man opened up the gate to that little dude. So I got to identify that. Hey, if there's another time where this dude's a little bit louder than normal, I got to start saying, "Hey, am I maybe a little bit more emotionally charged? Is there more emotionally attached to this situation than I'm acknowledging and noticing that's maybe letting this NPD get louder than it normally does?" Right? Make a better future than our past. We got to learn and grow. That's what I got to do. I got to start to identify these triggers. I didn't identify this was heightened. I didn't, right? I don't think I've really been in that situation before. Well, not at this level, right? You know? So I need to get ready in case it ever happens again, okay? Because this time, you know, maybe it was a small fail that really didn't do any harm, right? We'll never know the impact. I mean, I don't know what happened, you know, me bringing it up to the other person, you know what I mean? I don't. But I don't think there, you know, there was harm. I think the damage was me knowing that it's a fail. I have to be able to forgive myself. I have to be able to learn and grow from it, right? To do better in the future than the past, right? But all that intensity, all that other stuff, that disorder knew it. It knows my weaknesses. And it knew, hey, I'm sure you guys know, it came from that girl, right? You know, I'm gonna love that girl till the day I die. I mean, if I get reincarnated 1,000 lives, I am never gonna love anyone the way I love that girl. It is never going to happen. It's not. And nobody is ever gonna have a freaking direct line to my soul the way that girl does. Nobody, ever. So you add all of that to that text, right? And I had to fail. And I got to accept that. And I got to acknowledge that. And I got to forgive myself for that. And that's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm working on. And I got to do better. And I got to learn from it. But hey, silver linings sometimes, right? There's nothing wrong with me looking and saying, "Hey, Jim, that disorder was so loud and intense because you shut that motherfucker up for so long," right? Like acknowledge that You almost forgot what it was like to hear that dude screaming in your ear, right? It hasn't been doing that like it did, because you've been doing good. You've been rocking it, right? You've been keeping that dude under your foot, right? You've been doing amazing. And we'll continue to do amazing, right? So hey, learn from that. Move on. Forgive yourself. You know, but find the successes and the failures. Like I said, I mean, there's so many successes that led up to that failure, right? Okay. I cried enough on this past weekend. I got no more tears left today. I promise you. That's man. Whew. Okay, that's intense stuff. Again, I just hope it's helpful. And I do want to address one other thing. I know you heard some things, right? So the ex still has communication. We live in different states, and that's something that I don't advise. You know, I get it. If I was on the outside looking in, I get it. I understand. But yeah, you heard that. You're like, yeah, so you still have communication. Now, baby mama ex, I have to. There's no concrete separation. I mean, I have to see my kids. You know what I mean? You know, we have to have some kind of relationship. But love of my life ex, that's different. You know, and she had done that to me in the past, you know, completely blocked me, you know, in all facets, right? And I, if I were in your shoes, I'd be like, man, you a hypocrite, dude, 110%, I get it. But yeah, if you are in a relationship with a person that is a narcissist or has narcissistic personality disorder, I recommend that you get out of that relationship immediately and you cease all communication and you do not allow them to ever contact you in any way, shape, or form. I know what it must sound like coming from what I've already told you. It's what we do. We hoover, right? Drag you back in. We fake future. We lie. Tell you how great things are going to be. We manipulate to emotionally abuse you again. And if you are in a relationship with a person with narcissistic personality disorder, you are being abused. Period. Right? You're definitely being emotionally abused. Definitely. You're possibly being physically abused, sexually abused, and financially abused. But you're definitely being emotionally abused. And you need to get out of that relationship. And because of the nature of the disorder, you need to cease all communication to not allow them to hoover and drag you back in and manipulate you back in. That is the overwhelming consensus in the field of how a victim should handle a relationship with someone who has narcissistic personality disorder. If you cannot cease all communication, like I said, my ex, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, come on, like if I was physically, you know, abusive and stuff like that, like she could get restraining orders, and there are steps, right? But sometimes there aren't. Like there's, you know, so she has to understand, you know, that there will be some type of interaction between the two of us, whether it be our kid's birthday, when everybody goes out to dinner together, or seeing each other at the front door when I come to pick up one of the kids or drop them off. You know, there's going to be those interactions. So there's going to be family members. You know, my oldest son lives on his own. He's married, right? Has his own family. There's going to be events they have that I get invited to that will both be there. So if you're in that type of situation, I mean, what you need to do is acknowledge they have this disorder, have a plan for how to handle the way that they act. I strongly recommend you get a therapist, and this is something you work on together. So if, let's say, it's a family member that has this the disorder, you can, and Thanksgiving's coming up, work with your therapist on a plan for how you're going to handle that Thanksgiving dinner, right? Yeah, I've talked enough. I talk too much. And I definitely cry too much. Just like everybody else that has this disorder, it's a lot of trauma. It's a lot of emotion that's got to get out. It gets a little bit easier every time you let it out. Tears towards wellness.